So we're here for about an hour, if that's all right, and we're just going to do the whole thing today is about the impact volunteering can have on your employability in your career. So my name is Sian Davis, and I am the volunteer recruitment and marketing manager here at Discovery. And I also thought it'd be really nice, and we're joined by two Swansea University graduates who also, well, I'll let them introduce themselves and stuff, but I don't know, Meg, if you want to introduce yourself first.
Yeah, I'm Meg. I was a law student at Swansea University and got involved with Discovery in my first year, at the October of my first year, and stayed involved for the 3 years in various different projects. Sian, you wanting me to tell them about that now, or you wanting?
Would you want to say what you do now and also what projects and volunteering you did?
Yeah, so the projects I did was Hospital Reading Friends. I was project leader on that, project coordinator on that. COP project, I went to Zambia on the Swansea Sea of Hunger partnership, and then supported volunteering in Active 18 was a big part of what I actually did for, because that was over all 3 years. I started that at the very start and did that for all 3 years. I'm now a trainee solicitor for a conveyancing firm. I started that in March and love it. Yeah, enjoying it at the minute. I think volunteering gave me a lot of confidence, which is definitely needed, especially when dealing with some very difficult clients. So yeah, I think that having the confidence to speak to new people and just go out there and do things on my own has really helped.
Cool, thanks, Meg. Declan, do you want to?
So I'm Declan. I studied politics and social policy and graduated in 2018, I think. Might have been 19, but I think it was 18. I got involved with Discovery in my second year, but my course was 4 years, so I was around for 3 years. When I got involved, I was project coordinator from get-go of the Buddied Reading Scheme. So taking a group of volunteers out into a school and supporting like children with literacy support. After that, I then went on to become a trustee of the charity and then president of the board of trustees, as well as going to Zambia. Not the same year as Meg. I think maybe the year before, but I'm not entirely certain. And yeah, since graduating, I've done quite a few different jobs, from youth work for a charity to my current job. So I'm working for a homelessness charity. Started working for them in Swansea and then did various different roles in London, where I am now. I've worked for a students' union for a while as well. But yeah, came back to the charity sector and the homelessness sector again.
And do you want to explain what your role is at the moment, Declan?
Yeah. So my current role is I'm part of the Crisis at Christmas team in London. So we set up 8 temporary homelessness shelters that provide accommodation over Christmas, and then 4 of them are day centres that just provide day services. So it's a project for back in 2019 when I worked at it last, we had 11,000 volunteers in total. I don't know if it's true, but back in 2019, we did say that it was the largest volunteering event in the UK. Please don't fact check me on that because I'm not sure it's true, but we're going to say that it is. So it's this massive volunteering project that provides accommodation, food, entertainment, just a nice time, but also a route out of homelessness for people experiencing all different forms of homelessness at Christmas. Obviously, it was different last year because of COVID, and it's going to be slightly different again this year. Hopefully a bit more of a return to the huge event that it used to be, but it's allowed us to focus a little bit more. So whereas we used to provide mass sleeping areas for a week over Christmas when the other night shelters closed, we now offer accommodation through the form of hotels for a whole fortnight. So that gives us a chance to work with people more intensively. My specific role is to be in charge of logistics and operations. So people tell me what needs to be done, and it's my job to work with my volunteers, which at the moment I think is looking at about 500 this year, could be up to 1,000. I work with those guys to get that stuff done and to make sure things run as smoothly as they can when you have that many people.
Cool, thanks both. I thought that's just quite useful for everybody to kind of know how both Declan and Meg kind of were students like all of you guys, and then went on to kind of go into two very different careers, but how it's nice to kind of hear how volunteering has kind of influenced both of those moves in their careers and stuff. I don't know if anyone else wants to, any of the students want to kind of introduce yourselves. It'd be really nice to know who else we've got on this chat. There's only about 15 of us maximum in there, so I don't know if any of the students or graduates who are here want to just say hello and who they are and what course they're doing, or what course that they've been on. Anybody willing to say? And if anyone wants to say if they already volunteer and what volunteering they do. And do feel free to take your mic off mute if you feel confident enough to talk in person, or just put it in the chat. I'll give you a minute or two, guys, but it'd be really nice if everyone could just introduce themselves so we know who you are and that kind of thing, and what you wanted to get out of the session.
Even after a year and a half, I'm still struggling with online events like this.
Jack, were you going to speak then?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I was just
Go on,
checking if
off you
my
go.
mic's working.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, as I said, I've literally just came to the university, and I was really curious what volunteering opportunities they actually have. I do study economics,
Cool.
and that's first year, but
Are you in
I
the first
did
year?
yeah, sorry.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so I've only really done volunteering when it comes to like food shelters or things like that, but I've never really done anything on a grandiose scale. It's always been like local work. So I was quite curious to see what Swansea would offer in terms of
Brilliant.
volunteering work.
Cool. Well, hopefully you'll find out. So yeah, welcome, Jack. And hopefully by the end you'll know a little bit more of some of the projects, and some of the projects that both Meg and Declan volunteer is still going. We're really pleased. For example, buddied reading, which Declan project led on when he started volunteering. We're just about to go back into schools, which is really nice because of course we haven't been able to because of COVID and stuff. So there's lots of different projects. So I'll talk a little bit about that as well. Anyone else willing to introduce themselves, or should we just move on? We'll just move on, I think. And if anyone wants to say hello or put it in the chat, then that's great. So what I wanted to kind of talk about is, so some of what we're going to do in this session is kind of talk about the benefits of volunteering, understand what Discovery can offer you, but also hear from Declan and Meg. I think for me, it was really important getting their voice and stuff about, you know, where they both work, and they're now out in the real world. They've both graduated and stuff, and how kind of they think that volunteering helped them get where they are in their careers, but also impacted on things like their interviews and applying for jobs and stuff. And then also for you guys to be able to find out how to get involved with Discovery. So who we are is we are a registered charity. We are part of the university, but an independent charity. We were set up over 50 years ago by a group of students who just wanted to come to Swansea and make a difference. Today, currently at the moment, we run over 25 different projects at full capacity when COVID does not exist, which I'm always hopeful that there's going to be a time when COVID does not exist. We run around 35 different projects. We do lots of one-off volunteering and virtual volunteering. Our prime funder is the university, but we are an independent charity and stuff. So that kind of, we're in this, we are based at the university. We have our office at the university, but we are not, we're a partner of the university rather than being part of the university, if that makes sense. So how can volunteering make you more employable? One of the things we say in Discovery is, particularly I think employers are looking for transferable skills such as leadership, teamwork, in problem solving, communication and initiative, all stuff that through volunteering you can learn and stuff. And I think particularly at the moment, with everything that's happened with the last 18 to 2 years, lots of employers are asking people, how have you adapted to COVID and stuff, and all that kind of stuff. And what we have found is lots of students have come forward and said the usual avenues of gaining work experience or gaining being able to work with certain groups of humans haven't been open to them because of COVID. So actually through volunteering, you can gain lots of those transferable skills and stuff. The other thing as well, it's about gaining new confidence. One of my favorite stories is I had a student who thought they wanted to go and work with children, came and worked on some of our children's projects. After 3 months, realized they didn't really like working with children. They actually loved working with disabled adults and older adults, and that's where they went for a career. But I think rather than me kind of say it, I was going to ask Megan and Declan, you know, how do you think both of you spent, I think, 2 or 3 years of university life volunteering? How do you think that's made you more employable? So Meg, I don't know if you want to go first, particularly because of, you know, you're a lawyer in a different arena than where Declan works. So how has it made you more employable? What skills do you think it gave you?
I think in terms of skills, it was just sort of communication and the confidence that I mentioned before. I know when I signed up for Discovery in the October of my first year, I was terrified. I'd gone to uni completely on my own with no friends came with me from school or anything. And I was such a nervous wreck. I hated doing anything on my own. And how I ever thought I was ever going to be able to go for a job or an interview when I was reliant on someone holding my hand all the time. And I think just doing Discovery and just being told to just try and get out there. I know that I think it was within like 3 months you were asking me to do a presentation in front of other people, which was just a Discovery way to do it. And I think in the grand scheme of things, learning how to speak to new people, emails and things like that, project managing and being a project manager, and then also I was also a trustee like Declan. I think just time managing and things like that, everything that I now have to do on a daily basis, I had to learn very, very quickly with Discovery, which obviously is a godsend. I think it also just marks out as a little bit different. I know especially in law, a lot of the interviews are same old. They're so repetitive. You get asked the same like 5 or 6 questions. Having something else that you can kind of add on the end, and having confidence to actually talk about the fact that you've gone and done it and you enjoy doing it just marks out as being a little bit different, gives people something to remember you by. So I think it's helped me like I said, in terms of being able to talk about myself and talk to new people and just go out there and get on with it a little bit.
Cool, thanks, Meg. What about you, Dec?
All really similar. So definitely on like the confidence front, like Discovery completely gave me a new lease of life with confidence, I suppose. But also just having those really specific examples when it comes to interviews and applications. I think when you're all up against loads of other graduates who also have a similar degree, I think just having that thing that really makes you stand out as being one, you doing something productive in your free time that you're choosing to do, just makes you kind of stand out, but also just the examples that you can provide. Specifically for like the charity sector, most, and I think even more maybe the private sector as well, increasingly, a lot of organizations like to be kind of values driven. So when you're applying for a role, there'll be a question which is like, this organization prides itself on being a values driven organization. How do you meet the company or the charity's values? And then they'll have 3 or 4 very, very vague values which you have to prove that you meet. Pretty much every single time I've applied for a job, I've used experiences from my volunteering to demonstrate how I have those values. So if it's embracing diversity and inclusion, pretty much all of Discovery's projects will be able to give you an example of that. And the fact that it is something that you're doing because you're choosing to do it, it's something that you're choosing to do with your free time. I think it's so much more powerful than saying, I've studied this module or I did this as a job. Yeah, I think that's it. But yeah, confidence and just being comfortable working with others. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I'm just reflected when you were both speaking. I can remember when I both asked you to do like your first presentation or your first chat to camera and seeing the difference from you guys from maybe 3-4 years ago to now today being quite confident and on Zoom and doing this. I can remember that time when you were both looking at me and going, really, Sian? You good? And I'd be like, and I can remember standing outside with Declan and going, come on, we can do this. And you were like, I hate talking to camera and I hate talking in front of people. And just that kind of development and stuff is, for me, it was part of the reason why I do the job I do, but you can see the development with you guys has been amazing. And like, as Meg said, I think it was probably me who asked you to do that first presentation, Meg, and try and persuade you and go, come on, you can do it and stuff. So yeah, it's great to see how that's kind of led on as well. And that's one of the things we really pride ourselves in Discoveries about being student-led, is giving you those opportunities to develop your confidence and get that experience in a supportive environment. So we would never have just thrown both of you in, always supported people on the way and stuff like that. And I think that's one of the things, really hope that lots of you, some of you students will kind of think, oh, maybe get involved and stuff like that. And both of you have had lots of leadership experience as well. I don't know, we're currently recruiting for trustees. I'm going to kind of, have you felt that the leadership experience you've got has helped? Both of you led projects, but also helped run the charity. Was that, how did you guys find that as well? Dec, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think that was so important. I think being able to understand, but then demonstrate that you understand how organizations work at different levels. So it's, I think it's so important to have that experience of seeing how high level decisions are made. So being as one of the trustees, you have to make decisions and give the charity direction. Like it's a big charity. Well, it's a small charity, but it's has quite a, I think, 5 members of staff, and then it was like 500 volunteers.
Yeah, like that, yeah.
So it has like a really big reach, and with that many projects, I think being at a position where you're making decisions that can affect that many people is, it really kind of gives you a bit more perspective, and then taking that to roles going forward is so important. But also just being at that level of a charity means that you engage with all different types of stakeholders that you wouldn't usually come across if you were a volunteer or if you were just a student at the university. So being able to say, when you're asked in an interview, that you've spoke to people high up in different departments across the university and worked with them, built those relationships, I think that's so important.
Oh, what about yourself, Mike?
I think it was similar to what Declan said. It was just getting that behind the scenes understanding of how it actually works. Because I think you can volunteer sort of on as many projects as you want and do as many as you can. But I think there's an element of you're never going to fully understand how much actually goes into making those projects work and how much goes into making that charity work until you have to sit there and figure it out for yourself. And I think for my project coordinator, I don't think it's going anymore because of COVID. They had to stop. But it was a brand new project, and having to take that from the very, very beginning, it was giving me a full understanding of how an idea actually becomes a project and how you then have to get every single student interested because it's never been heard of before. You've nothing to base it off, you've nothing to go off that's happened previously. And I think it was just that actually learning from start to finish how something actually comes in, rather than kind of just coming in and being like, oh, I volunteer on it and then walk away from it at the end of the day. You get involved to an extent that you never fully switch off from it, which I loved and fully, it gave me an experience of like actually something I can take to work now, because even though you go home at the end of the day, you don't ever fully turn off from what's gone on. Obviously it becomes yours, you follow it through from start to finish. And I think that's an understanding I would have never had I not got involved in volunteering and then got involved in project coordinating and being a trustee as well.
Well, thanks both. So what I thought is, you know, and I think kind of touch on some of the skills that you do gain from volunteering. I don't know if anybody wants to say any of the skills that they're hoping to develop, but one of the things that we do at Discovery is kind of talk to you at the start of your volunteering journey, saying, what skills do you want to develop and stuff? And these are some of the things that I think you do, which are always transferable skills that no matter if you're a civil engineer, if you're going to the voluntary sector, if you're a lawyer, these are all things, you know, if you're a medical student, if you're going into medicine, these are all skills that will be asked for on both your applications and in interviews. And one of the things we've found from people volunteering with Discovery is that they've said that when they've been able to do their application forms, particularly I think the first round, when you've just graduated, being able to have concrete examples to put on your application form when they say, you know, how have you worked with a diverse group of people? Discovery is giving you concrete examples, like, you know, I worked on children's projects, I worked with disabled adults, I worked with hospital reading friends and went and spoke to older patients in hospital and stuff. You've suddenly got concrete examples to both put on your CV and on your job applications, but also talk about interview. And when the president after Declan, Jaron, she ended up being, she's now a sergeant in the police and stuff, and she said literally the 2 hours of her interview she just spoke about Discovery, and every time they asked her a question, every example she gave back to them was, and I learned this, and this is my example, and this is how I got that, is through Discovery and stuff like that. Yeah, so you can participate. So one of the things that we're very conscious of in Discovery at the moment is we are conscious, that not all of our students have been able to return to Swansea because of COVID. So there is virtual volunteering, there is projects. So about 50% of our projects are still happening remotely. And some of the reason why for that is because of COVID restrictions, we're very aware of the people that we support and that they're vulnerable. So we want to make sure that they're safe from COVID, but also making sure that there are programs. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're a Swansea University student, you can volunteer with us wherever you are in the world. And I'll talk a bit more in a minute about the projects that you kind of gain and stuff. And this is kind of what some of the other volunteers have said about it. So Josh was also a trustee and kind of said, you know, his whole career has happened because of Discovery. Nat is now a PhD student, but she did strategic marketing last year, and she really found that she had to apply as part of her master's. She did a 12-week placement, and she does the digital media course, so she does marketing, and she said she got 4 offers for fully paid internships because she was able to go with a whole portfolio of examples of social media content that she had created for Discovery and stuff. And she said now she's not worried about getting a job because she's got so much behind her. And then the final one is Chelsea, and Chelsea's kind of said that, you know, not only did it do it, Chelsea, she project coordinated with you, didn't she, Dec?
Into Discovery. So Chelsea was my housemate, and then she went on to be project coordinator of Kids Away. But we lived together for 2 years, and we're going to the theatre tomorrow.
There we go. So there we go. So not only does Discovery get you a great career, it makes you lifelong friends and stuff. And that's one of the things that Chelsea said, is that, you know, it's really gave her those invaluable friendships and stuff like that, and helped to create friends that kept her at university and stuff, but also has gave her experience in kind of leading a team and planning events, but also kind of, she says she still uses the skills that she learned at Discovery. She says, she was saying when I was chatting to her by email, and it says in a quote, she says she still uses them every single day, and she can kind of track it back to, I learned that in Discovery and I still use that every single day. I don't know if you guys have got anything else, Declan and Megan, you want to say about what skills you've kind of learned or what you've gained out of volunteering from Discovery? Go on, Dec.
I think for me, like, it was definitely the leadership element. I think maybe I could have done leadership jobs without Discovery, but I definitely would never have had the confidence to do it. So like my first job out of university was working on like a residential summer school for young people. And there was different jobs to apply for, some of which were like mentors, which were like entry. Well, they were all entry level, but some of them required leadership experience and some of them didn't. I think had I not have had Discovery's experience under my belt, I would never have gone for the leadership position. But I did, and I was so thankful that I did. I ended up managing a team of like 6 or 7 people in a residential setting, which was ridiculous, but so much fun. But I would never have had the confidence if I hadn't had all the Discovery experience prior to that, as well as giving me, so when I started my degree, I was convinced that I wanted to go into teaching, because I was like, I don't know what else to do when I finish. And then after doing buddied reading and working in a school, and seeing how all that works, I was like, I never want to do that as a job. Um,
Thank God you
and
found
I
that out
think-
with us before you did your PGCE.
But yeah, that's a thing, just giving me that kind of environment to explore different places of work, and get different experience and figure out a little bit more of what I wanted to do before I'd actually started my career, because to have done that a few years down the line just would have been annoying more than anything else. But yeah, it just gives you a safe space to try out different environments and different things and figure out what you want to do.
What about you, Meg?
I think similar to what everyone's kind of already covered, and then similar to what Declan said then, I was always pretty sure of what I wanted to do from being quite young. I was quite fortunate in that sense. But I had, from being about 15, 16, all of my volunteering, all of my free time had been spent around legal work. And I think Discovery gave me a chance to actually do something that wasn't remotely legal related. But like I said, gave me something to talk about, allowed me to see things from very different points of view that I don't think you'd ever learn, especially from obviously legal environments can be very obviously quite serious all the time. You've got to be very client confidential and things like that. And I think allowing, like going into hospitals, going to schools and things like that, allowed me to just see how different things work, different people thought, which I don't think I would have ever got had I not joined Discovery and just based all of my experience and volunteering on the fact that I needed to go into legal work, because it just doesn't broaden you as a person, I guess. Like, it sounds really cringy, but I think that going into Discovery and going into doing things that are a little bit different actually gave me something that made me a bit more interesting. I think my entire life had always been, I do this, this and this, but it's all legal related. I'd probably become a very boring person. And I think actually being able
I don't
to
believe that.
I think being able to come away from that and actually talk about things I did otherwise, especially things like Zambia, and going into hospitals, I would have never got that otherwise, and obviously wouldn't have ever been able to talk about anything like that, and it just gives you something so interesting. And then the friends, I still speak to a lot of the people I volunteered with, which I don't think you'd necessarily get that connection with people when it's just your course. Because you don't share quite the same experience. Obviously you study together, but you don't share quite the same experiences. So I will obviously take that away from Discovery all the time.
And you both did the very quite intense Zambia experience. So we do run, and it, you know, one of the things I kind of wanted to highlight is some of the intense volunteering that people can do. So it's not just about volunteering with us, but other projects. You know, you did this 4-week volunteering abroad in Zambia. Hopefully at some point we'll be able to do those projects again, COVID allowing. How did you guys find doing that kind of 4-week full-on living and breathing volunteering project? What did it kind of, what skills did it give you guys, kind of immersing in a completely different culture and stuff?
I don't know about Declan, but I loved it. I was absolutely terrified going out there, because nothing over here prepares you for that. And then going, everyone is so nice. The people you go out there with, you become close to in a way you couldn't become close to people here, because they understand what you've been through in a way no one else ever could. It's intense, it's hard work, it's 4 weeks of hard work, but it's one of the most rewarding things I've done. I loved it, every second of it. I was drained. I came home shattered because it's not a holiday. But I loved every second of it. I learned so much out there, and wouldn't have changed any of it. It was, yeah, amazing.
All right, you, Dec?
Really similar. I use that example in pretty much every single teamwork question, because they're like, how can you work as a team? I'm like, well, lived with people for 4 weeks, shared a bedroom, and we all were still friends, and none of us killed each other. So clearly it was okay. Incredibly intense, so much hard work. Taught me a lot of self-awareness, taught me kind of what my boundaries are, what makes me stressed and what doesn't. Just helped me understand myself a lot more. And I think that self-awareness is so important, because when you apply for a job, they don't expect you to nail every single skill that they want. But if you are slightly short of one, they want you to have that awareness to be able to say that, but also to be able to know how to kind of compensate for that. And I think it really taught me where I get stressed, what tires me out, when I need to take a moment to myself, because it's really, really hard work, but it's so much fun. And like Meg said, you bond with people in a way that you just wouldn't bond with other people, because it is that shared experience, and you're with people for so much time. It really, really taught me that I'm ridiculously introverted, which is great to know. And now I can tell my employer that, and I know that if I've got loads of social things at work, so like training and stuff like that, I know that I need to plan to recuperate from that so that I can come back with more energy the next time.
Cool. And I think it's really interesting. It's really interesting having Declan here from my perspective, because I 15 years ago had a very intense volunteering experience, and for me it was crisis. So I was 15 years ago one of the lead volunteers at Crisis, and that was a 2-week really intense kind of full on, everyone was shattered, doing 8 or 9 hours of volunteering every day, and it was a big and it's really interesting. I still use that crisis, being one of those lead as an example when I go for interviews and stuff about teamwork and how you get on with a team and stuff. And I've used it in every single interview in the last 15 years, even though I've had lots of other jobs. So it's interesting how sometimes doing some of that with volunteering, it's not just about with us, but with other organisations, doing some of those 2-3 week projects, what they can get you. So you might be looking as students looking at, right, what can I do in the summer? What can I do over Christmas and stuff? There's lots of opportunities. You can do stuff with us now and then and ad hocly, but there's lots of other volunteering opportunities out there. But I think for me, it is really interesting that kind of having Declan here now coordinating that and thinking back on, I still use Crisis as my teamwork example of how did you do it? And I said, well, I worked as part of a team that coordinated all these homeless people coming in, and and I still use that as one of the things. And I'm still friends with the people that from 15 years ago, our team and stuff, because of that intenseness. So just to kind of give you a little, you guys might be thinking about volunteering with us if you're Swansea University students. Hopefully Meg and Declan have kind of let you know a little bit about some of the projects. We have at the moment, we have 25 different projects. You can volunteer anywhere in the world. You can do as much or as little volunteering as you want and stuff. And you can do regular commitments like Megan and Declan did, or you could just dip in and out and stuff. And there's a whole team of us who are wanting to support you. And, we've got probably maybe, and I'll put in the chat in a minute, we've got around 6 different projects that work with children. Buddied reading is about to go back into schools. Building blocks, we work with Lego to work with children. We have our Inspire project, which is inspiring young people to kind of get active. Then we've got our East project, which is a homework club. We've got Surfability, which is helps different children and stuff kind of learn to surf and take risks. We're starting our youth club again in a couple of weeks. So there's some great projects. We've also got, we're really pleased that we can go back to, there's a Circus Eruption, which is a youth club, which is all about kind of using play as therapy and building people's confidence and stuff. We are able to go back to that in person. So if any of you, for example, Declan, I think that's one of the reasons why Declan came to us, was to kind of find out if he wanted to work with children. Obviously realised he didn't want to, but if you want to go in to do your PGCE or teaching and you need to get your teaching hours, lots of our project coordinators and our students, that's how, when they've applied for a PGCE and it says you need 40 hours contact hours with children, they've been able to use volunteering. Then we've got our work with disabled adults, and Meg was one of our people who kind of worked one-on-one with somebody kind of every week, supporting them coming and volunteering in the office. But also then we've got our Active 18 project, which is a social group, and that is starting to move back into person. We've got our work with older adults. So we've got a Befrienders project with old people in Wales and stuff who are isolated, doing regular phone calls. Then we've got some of our practical projects, which is kind of doing just gardening, decorating, or maybe going and doing some beach cleans and stuff. And I think some of that is when you've got those breaks from the studies, then you can come along and say, yeah, actually, I want to have a break from my studies. Let's just go and pick up some litter for a couple of hours and stuff like that. And all of the projects are, we've got 15 of our projects we run ourselves, 10 of them are run by local community groups. So for example, our refugee and asylum seeker projects we are working with other charities in Swansea where we go and send students to go and work with them to support refugee and asylum seekers. So I think the other thing is about getting to know the local community and stuff. I know particularly Meg, I would say you probably still miss it, don't you, Meg? Miss the guys that you volunteered with?
Yeah,
I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I did I did all sorts, and I miss all of it. I loved Active 18 because that group is such a good group to work with. They're so funny and so caring. I miss them all the time. And then COP Project, the people you volunteer with on that, and how close you get to people. I still try to chat to as many people as you can and sort of keep in touch, obviously, with yourselves to see how things are going. But yeah, definitely miss it. Yeah.
And I think it's also about getting to know the Swansea community. So getting outside, I think there is what I call the student triangle that is, still exists of Swansea Bay, the university, Swansea Bay campus, Singleton campus, Wine Street, now that you can go back on Wine Street, and that's about it. And I'm saying to students, there's a whole, Swansea is a really diverse community, and come and meet some of those people from the community and get involved and stuff like that. If you are thinking about volunteering, just go to our website and decide on what volunteering you want to get to. Both Meg and Declan have spoken about leadership skills. We are at the moment currently recruiting for trustees at the moment. So if you wanted to learn, I think there was an economic person. So if you want to learn how to help run a charity and do finances, and there was some, Jack, I think you were in your first year, come and be a trustee. Do not feel like you have to have had some experience. I think, Declan, you ended up being trustee within about 2 or 3 weeks of volunteering, didn't you? Am I right in saying that?
I don't remember exactly how long, but it was very, very, very soon after walking through that door.
Somebody
Yeah,
just
but
wanted
it was
Declan
such a good.
get involved, yeah.
And like you said, with like the finance experience, like I, in my degree, would never have gotten that, like doing like politics and social policy, like you touch on like bits of economics in like a political sense. But I have ended up managing budgets in every single job since, and it's been on the skills required. And being able to prove that I've done that in a voluntary basis was so important. And then to say that I did it for the charity, and the charity, I think, turns over like 100k, 200k, something like that. Like just saying that you've been in control of that and had oversight of it is so important and so cool.
And the other thing, just say, these are some of the benefits. I think Megan and Declan have been able to say much better than I have. But what I would say as well is some of the things is like there's something called the Higher Education Achievement Record. So when you get your degree or your master's or your PhD and stuff, you also will get it's recognised by employers. It's a certificate on your degree, on your transcript, saying that not only did you study, you actually had you did volunteering. And then the other thing is what lots of our graduates do use this as a reference, and maybe down the line you can use other people, but I think both of you were nodding. I think both of you, the first reference you used was one of us and stuff, and sort of having that on when you're applying for jobs to say, I don't just have my academic tutor, I have somebody from a local charity to be able to say, yeah, they've worked with this diverse group of people, they've led projects, they've done project management, really makes you stand out when you're applying for jobs, and would make people go, oh, hang on, this person, their reference is a bit different to other law students, for example, and stuff. Oh, that's a bit of a different referee and stuff. So that's how you get in touch with us. I'm going to quickly, I don't know if anyone wants to take a photo of that and stuff. I'm going to quickly send around in the chat the project guide, but I just wondered if anyone's got any questions for Megan and Declan rather than myself about what they did, or a question for myself about projects, or if Declan and Megan, what have you got any other kind of final thoughts that you would want to say to students thinking about volunteering? Megan, have you got any, what would you say to anyone thinking of doing it?
Do it, embrace it. There are so many different opportunities. I think even if you are absolutely terrified of getting involved or not quite sure about being with new people, anything like that, just try and embrace at least one of the projects. I think with Discovery, once you are in and you get a feel for it and you get to know the people who work there and you can engage with, you just realise how easy it is to get involved in so much more. I started on one project and think by the end of it I had made an effort to try every single one, and you just constantly want to know what more there is to do. So yeah, I think just get your foot in the door, even if it's just signing up right now. And in a few months' time you decide to go back. I think it's so worth just seeing how it works and getting to know people a little bit.
How about you, Declan?
Very, very similar. I remember in my, I don't know if we still do it, but we used to do induction training.
Mhm.
Start here training. And I remember Josh, who was a president at the time, was like, said that the thing that he regretted was not getting involved sooner. And yeah, that's basically, I just need to reiterate later, the sooner you do, the better. Just because everyone that I spoke to who didn't get involved until second or third year were all like, oh, I wish I got involved sooner so that they could become a project coordinator or become a trustee. So even if you are in your third year, still get involved. But if you're in your first or your second year, definitely, just sign up and come along and give it a go, because I really doubt you'll regret it.
And one of the questions we did ask was, somebody's just asked, is if you can volunteer to the summer. We do run our programs. It's very to the academic program of September to the end of July. We are very conscious that some of our students don't disappear in the summer and don't disappear in the holidays. So even if some of our projects aren't running, we will signpost you to other projects, and things like our supported volunteering scheme and stuff will still need support, and there is still things going. So particularly, I think we have found in the last couple of years that the staff team have a break for a week or two, maybe over the holidays, but that's about it. And we also work with other organisations where they might still need support. So, for example, a couple of years ago when Declan was in crisis in Swansea, we would send students to crisis. We'd say, we won't be running anything, but this is a local charity in Swansea that are looking for people. And we've just had an email today off Action for Elderly, who are saying we need students over the Christmas period. We're like, yeah, of course, we'll advertise that. So it might not be our projects, but there'll be opportunities to go in. Is there any other questions?
Oh, hey, sorry.
Yeah, go on, Jack.
I was just curious, when it says create an account on our database, I can't really see where I go to do that.
Oh, let me put it in. So it's just because we have to make sure that everybody goes through the recruitment process, because we work with particularly people at risk and vulnerable people, that everybody attends our training and stuff. So literally, if you go onto that link, I've just put a link in now about how to volunteer, and on that you click, and it's a database, and it's a way of just being able to, one of the useful tools is the two of them will probably start laughing because I'm still banging on about logging people's hours. Yeah, see, both of them are laughing because I used to tell them, have you logged your hours? One of the useful tools about the database is you'll be able to log your hours. So I could go and still look Declan's name up and know that he's done over 300 volunteering hours. So if Declan said to me, I'm applying for a job, Sian, can you tell me how many hours of volunteering I did with you? I'd be able to tell him straight away and tell him what projects he volunteered on. So it's a really useful tool for yourselves, and to get some of those benefits around having a reference and a hero one. I thought that would make the two of them laugh, because I was well known to nag people to do it. Yeah, Meg's nodding. Yeah, Meg can remember when I was going, you guys haven't logged your hours and stuff. So yeah. And then somebody was also asking about the virtual volunteering. So I will just put a link to all our projects that we've got virtually and stuff. And so we kind of put them up, and it's just, and one of the things that we're conscious of is particularly at the moment, is that you can have the chance to do some volunteering from your home. So if you're self-isolating and stuff, if you get a bit bored, then you can do some virtual volunteering. And particularly, I think, because things have changed with COVID again, one of the things that we're conscious of is student houses and flats might have to go back into lockdown. That's what's happened in the last 3 weeks, because the isolation rules have changed in Wales and stuff. So if you're isolating, you know, there's only so much of Bryson and Melissa and Have I Got Married in Australia, you know, first married at first time for Australia. There's only so much of Melissa and Bryce having rows you can cope with. You might one of them feel like, I need to go and do something productive. And there's some great virtual volunteering opportunities there for you as well. So I put those in. Are there any other questions? Well, thank you very much for coming, guys. Yeah, And I hope you kind of learned stuff. So I'm going to stop the recording, and the students, you're free to go. And I hope you do think about volunteering with us. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.